morning and welcome to another edition of the Economy and Politics show, when we bring you developments in the economy and how it affects the populace. Today we're looking at the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was ratified in January this year and has over 40 nations that have signed up for the treaty. We're looking at the trade, development and job opportunities for Nigeria. With me to have this conversation today is Dr. Ogho Okiti. He's an economist, but also the MD of Business Day newspapers, one of Nigeria's leading financial newspapers. And it's nice to have you be part of this conversation. Dr. Okiti.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Abasi. I'm very delighted to be here this morning.
Thank you. Before we begin, let's give you a wrap-up of some key economic activities and reports that occurred last week. First, according to a report released by the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, Nigeria recorded $8.4 billion in investment announcement inflows in the first quarter of 2021, of which $5.5 billion was pledged by foreign investors. In comparison, the remaining $2.9 billion came from domestic investors. The sum committed by foreign investors was 27.5% lower than the $7.5 billion announced in the fourth quarter of 2020. Also, the Federal Inland Revenue Service announced the extension of the deadlines for withholding tax validation and tax returns filing for the year 2021 from June 30th to July 31st, 2021. And also, Vice President Professor Yemi Osibanjo, SAN, speaking at the one-day investors webinar organized by the Bureau of Public Enterprises in collaboration with the Nigeria Exchange Group and the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, said the federal government will henceforth look for the right type of investors in its privatization and commercialization drive. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll have this interesting conversation on the AFCFTA.
FCMB Business Zone is a robust one-stop online platform designed to help you run a more profitable business. Beyond visiting the Business Zone for useful resources and networking opportunities, you should consider signing up for a merchant account. With a merchant account, you can list your business services on the platform to reach a wider range of potential customers. You also get access to an escrow system that bridges trust between service provider and receiver. To sign up as a merchant, simply go to businesszone.fcmb.com, click on Sign Up at the top right of the page, choose the Merchant Sign Up option, complete the form, then click Submit. Check your email box and click the link in the verification email to finish the process. It's that simple. Don't have an FCMB account? No worries. You're automatically assigned the SME role once sign-up is completed. Once you open your FCMB account, you can change the status by clicking on Upgrade Profile on the left sidebar on your dashboard. For technical support, please send an email to smehelpdesk@fcmb.com. Sign up as a merchant on FCMB Business Zone today and get access to new opportunities to expand your business.
FCMB, my bank and I.
Welcome back. Dr. Okiti, once again, nice to have you. And if you're joining us, we're having the conversation on the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, trade, development, and jobs opportunities for Nigeria. Dr. Ogho Okiti, an economist and MD of Business Day, is our guest. First, I'd like to ask you, I know you've been writing, for decades, you've been writing on economic developments through Business Day and several other platforms. And also, you've hosted several forums and discussions around how Nigeria can position itself as a competitive economy. I just want to ask you, how would you assess Nigeria's preparedness as participating in the AFCFTA, now that we know that 40 nations, including Nigeria, have ratified the agreements, and also the fact that the rules of origin and market access, the negotiations have now reached 80% level, showing that progress has been made. So how would you see Nigeria positioning itself effectively, our preparedness, particularly with the fact that we have the National Office of Trade Negotiations, the NOTN?
I think, all the African economies that have signed up, probably starting on the same level in terms of preparations. First, we must never forget the reason why this agreement came up in the first place. There's a general dissatisfaction with the level of intra-African trade. That's number one. I mean, something very less than just about 15% of trade. And of course, in that context, you have a significant poverty, very low level of investment on the continent, at least compared to other continents. So these were the motivations, and they are the right motivations. And on that basis, I mean, virtually all African economies have signed up to this trade agreement, at least the start of a series of trade agreements that can be built, that they can build on. So for me, I think this is not really about the level of preparation before. It's just to accept that we are here, and now how do we make progress? How do we ensure that the reason for which the AFCFTA was actually set up are actually achieved, or let me say the objectives of the agreement are met in decades to come. That is to foster the integration of African economies, of course, to reduce poverty significantly, to increase trade between African economies. So if you look at all those objectives, I think we are all starting on the same level. So I really don't want to isolate whether Nigeria was prepared or Nigeria was not prepared. I think everyone is starting just as weak as Nigeria. Of course, we have our own peculiarities, and of course, we can come to that later. But I just think this is not really about whether Nigeria was prepared or Nigeria was not prepared. This agreement has come. How do we make progress from here? Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Ogho Okiti. It's not about preparedness. I know that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and several other trade groups had raised their initial concerns, which delayed Nigeria's initial ratification before it finally came on board. And like you rightly said, everyone's studying at the same level. So it's how we can make progress from here, and that's very important. But let's look at the fact that when you're participating or part of an agreement like this, your trade policy also is very critical. I mean, when you look at other trade agreements like NAFTA, which was been revised between Canada, US, and Mexico, or even the ASEAN Pacific trade that involves Southeast Asian economies, or even the EU trade agreements, nations that are part of it must have very robust and dynamic trade policies. And the feelers we have from the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment is that they plan to revise our trade policy, which is also important. Issues around tariffs, issues around measures being taken to boost trade. What would you like to see? What are the components that you'd like to see in this revised trade policy? It's been a long time we've revised our trade policy.
I hope that your audience we appreciate. You look at Nigeria's with the word that's looking at Nigeria relevance in the global economic context. The way our trade policy is managed is just in one single, it's just one single narrative, and that is what has to change. What is that single narrative? Nigerian trade policy, whether it's a 500-page document or a 300-page document, that's the policy, and of course the implementation of the policy is just around demand management. So it's all, how do we manage demand? That's what we demand from the global economy. And what that invariably means is that whether we say it or not, Nigeria is a country obsessed with import substitution. So everything we talk about trade, anytime we talk about imports, anytime we talk about production, anytime we even talk about the deficit, they say, oh, how do we produce this so that we don't import? How do we do this so that we don't import? That's not what countries do. Countries don't talk about how do we produce so that we don't import. Countries look at trade from a broader perspective. So ours is just too narrow. It's always about demand management. And what are the two policies that we use in doing that demand management? Is one, foreign exchange. So that's why every time we are always trying to manage the foreign exchange, because we want to manage demand. That's number one. Of course, the second one is tariffs. So when you go to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, everything they talk about is tariffs. Just increase tariffs. Rice is coming, increase tariffs. Granite is coming, increase tariffs. Gari is coming, increase tariffs. So just look at the past 50 years. Go and look at how we manage international trade. It is just about demand management. So it's just a component of trade that we look at. So if I am going to be involved in coming up with what is going to be a trade policy for Nigeria, it will be broader and it will be holistic. So for instance, you can begin to ask yourself, what do you want to actually export? What can you actually export? What can you produce? How do you produce it? Who produces it? Where do they produce it? I mean, at what price do they produce it now? What do we think will happen in the global economy in the next 10 years? How do you think we can position Nigerian economy in the next 10 years? So you ask questions that are very, very dynamic, but all our analyses are always static. So whether it's even the people complaining about AFCFTA or the policies they are talking about, everybody is always looking about today. But economics is not about today. It's not just about today. It's what can you do to take advantage of the developments that are going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Where is the global economy moving to? How do you position your trade? How do you position your production? How do you position your human capital? So that is what we look at in terms of trade policy. So what do I mean by that? So for instance, let's say I come to the conclusion and I think, okay, in the next 10 years, I would like to produce 10% of rice production in the world. Some people decided many years ago that they could do that. Thailand did, So it's not about, this tariff. Okay, hang on a minute. We're going to have 7 billion people. We have 7 billion. Maybe in the next decade, maybe we'll have 7.5 billion. Where is rice consumption going in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? What can we do? How much of that can we produce in Nigeria? Then you ask yourself, you go micro, and you begin to ask, where is rice produced in Nigeria? You say, okay, maybe rice is produced in KB. Okay, what is the quantity of the rice that is produced in KB? At what price compared to the global price as it produced? What technology are they using? Then you ask all those questions and you begin to say, okay, how do we link the production in KB to the world? What do we need rail? Do we need trailers? Do we need whatever it is? How do we ensure that the movement out of the port is seamless, is cheap, in order to remain competitive? So that is how you do trade policy. Trade policy is not just foreign exchange management and tariffs, but that is what we've had since independence in Nigeria. Go and talk to anybody in government. The context of trade policy is, let's increase tariffs. Let's change the exchange rate. Let's keep it either at this level, or that is not trade policy. Trade policy has to go deeper and broader for it to make sense. It has to be holistic. So you have to connect production to logistics, to pricing, to destination, to quality, to standards. So there are so many things involved in trade policy. But at the moment, I don't think we are ready, to be honest.
Wow, Dr. Okiti, I mean, thanks for enlightening me and, of course, the viewers again on the fact that for the past 50 years, we've only been looking at the demand management approach, and from the FX and the tariffs level, you're calling for a broader and holistic approach in our trade policy, which is very important to position us as a competitive economy as we are part of this Continental Free Trade Agreement. But we'll go on another break, and when we return, we'll continue this very interesting conversation.
FCMB Business Zone is a robust one-stop online platform designed to help you run a more profitable business. Beyond visiting the Business Zone for useful resources and networking opportunities, you should consider signing up for a merchant account. With a merchant account, you can list your business services on the platform to reach a wider range of potential customers. You also get access to an escrow system that bridges trust between service provider and receiver. To sign up as a merchant, simply go to businesszone.fcmb.com, click on Sign Up at the top right of the page, choose the Merchant Sign Up option, complete the form, then click Submit. Check your email box and click the link in the verification email to finish the process. It's that simple. Don't have an FCMB account? No worries. You're automatically assigned the SME role once sign-up is completed. Once you open your FCMB account, you can change the status by clicking on Upgrade Profile on the left sidebar on your dashboard. For technical support, please send an email to SMEhelpdesk@fcmb.com. Sign up as a merchant on FCMB Business Zone today and get access to new opportunities to expand your business.
CMB, my bank and I.
Welcome back. So, Dr. Okiti, I mean, you've talked very clearly about the trade policy, and we need a broader approach, holistic one, not just the demand management approach. And you highlighted the issues of FX and, of course, tariffs. But also, structural reforms. Experts and analysts have said that we really need to take, very importantly, structural reforms that will help our economy to be competitive amidst being part of this trade and even engaging other developed markets and emerging markets. What would you say are the top priorities? For some, it's like more of infrastructure, road, rail, infrastructure, power, and even broadband. For you, what would be the critical areas that we need to address? Some of them are already being addressed. Maybe you can highlight on them so that we can really, really achieve scale and become that attractive market, even as we're part of this agreement.
All the measures you mentioned are all important. They are all important. Rail is important. Good roads are important. Broadband is important. However, in the context of trade policy and in the context of boosting Nigerian exports, you have to ask, what foundations are those infrastructure being built on? And so I'm coming from my previous answer. What foundations are they being built on? So what I'm trying to say, for instance, is that I can't just decide to say, oh, I want to build rail from Katsina to Niger, like the federal government is doing. Oh, we're building rail from Katsina to Niger. Well, I hope they understand why they are doing it. But let's say, for instance, that is what I want to do. So I want to say, okay, the reason I'm building rail from Katsina to Niger is so that I want to be able to evacuate maybe rice from that. So if I'm evacuating rice, let's say from Katsina, for instance, I'm evacuating rice from Katsina to markets, either in Nigeria or in Africa, and of course, to the world. Then I say, okay, where are they going? What is the connection between that Katsina and maybe the ports in Lagos? Oh, is the port in Lagos not too far? What is the connection between that and the ports maybe in Port Harcourt? You know, so what I'm trying to say is that if you are building infrastructure, there must be microeconomic foundations of trade for which you are building those infrastructure. It's not just a context of building infrastructure. Infrastructures are useless on their own, but the whole essence of infrastructure is to boost productivity, is to reduce the cost of doing business, is to make life easy for people. However, if you don't understand where the economy is and where it is going, then you just build infrastructures anyhow. So it's not about which infrastructure is important. They are all important. But people don't, countries, serious economies don't build infrastructure just for the sake of building infrastructure. There's an economic foundation. There's an economic exchange foundation for which they build the infrastructure. So that infrastructure now helps to scale up those economic foundations that have already been identified. So for instance, I mean, just look at the way we build in Nigeria, for instance. Take for instance, Ibejuleki in Lagos. Oh, everyone is buying land in Ibejuleki. Everyone is just buying land in Ibejuleki. So you see in Nigeria, people arrive at a destination before the government comes. But in other economics, the government arrive at a destination with their planning, with power, with water, with connections, industrial places, residential areas. They arrive at those places before the people arrive. So it means that is where you have all these hazard. Okay, maybe we export some agricultural products, maybe we export some mechanical products, maybe. But most of the exports that we do is actually due to the miraculous ingenuity of the producers themselves, not because of what government does. I mean, I work in Apapa. I mean, you for instance, you can't build the export of flowers like they did in Kenya around their ports. The Kenyan economy built the exports of flowers around their ports. So what does that mean? It means that they do the flowers in the morning, but by evening, the flowers are out of the country. You know, just imagine to take even something out of Apapa ports. You can't take anything. Even those of us that work in Apapa can't even reach Apapa. So what I'm trying to say is not about just building infrastructure. What are the economic foundations for which you are building infrastructure on? So all the infrastructures are good. Of course, we need broadband, we need good rail, we need good roads, we need good telephone reps so that work. What is thinking that you are trying? What is the outcomes that you expect? It's not just about building infrastructure. It goes beyond that.
I mean, you clearly said the economic foundation is very important, and you even highlighted an additional issue which is also very important: the seaports and terminals. Of course, you are in Apapa side, and hopefully we would see this diversification. For the concentration has been in Apapa, and hopefully with other seaports coming on board and terminals, it will help also improve access of trade and products, which has been a huge challenge in the country. Now, there's one area also that has been highlighted. Even the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, Mr. Wamkele Mene, made this point earlier this month in a conversation with experts around the AFCFTA. He said that the mobilization and awareness around the value of the AFCFTA, the private sector has to be involved. Governments and all stakeholders have to be involved in creating the awareness for the nations and why this is valuable. So I want to ask you, in terms of mobilization in Nigeria, how can we make this drive, particularly remembering the days of MAMSA, the mass mobilization and socio-economic recovery era, where we had so much mobilization about the value of MAMSA, even though at the end the impact, as expected, wasn't really felt, but the mobilization was there. Taking the heart of a media person now, Dr. Okiti, it's very important. The AFCFTA is there, but there's a need for mobilization and awareness of its value for Nigeria and the continent in general.
You know, I'm not sure it's about mobilization. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about mobilization in the context of this agreement. It's about working with companies. It's about working with businesses. It's about working with businesses of every size. I mean, small, medium, and big businesses to understand how they can be incentivized in order to for us to realize the outcomes that we expect from that. And that is what we have been talking about. If I see the direction in which the government wants to go, and I see concrete steps in that direction, and I see investment in that direction, I will see it. I don't really think I need anyone to mobilize me. It's not some kind of moral or political organization. It's just about businesses taking advantage of the plan to integrate and boost integration within the African continent. I mean, for instance, I mean, we're starting to see air travel between African countries. So how do you make that, for instance, simpler? How do you make it easier? How do you ensure that there's investment in that direction? That's one. You have payments within African continent. How do we ensure maybe we begin to exchange in African currencies and not just the dollar? So there are so many aspects. So you can look at air travel, you can look at different forms of connections, you can look at the road just from Nigeria to Republic of Benin. And I mean, there are so many things you can do. Once people see the direction for which you are going, you don't need any mass mobility. I don't need to employ I don't need to employ somebody and be saying, "Oh, tell people about this trade agreement or trade." No, 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 no. Nigerians that go to areas where there's no government, when they see the opportunities, they're already there before the government comes. So not to talk of when the government has created the opportunities. I can assure you, we are Nigerians. So when we see the opportunities, we don't need anyone to tell us. We don't need any mass mobilization. Let the government just do what is appropriate, and then and let's make speed about these things, and we'll see the progress.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ogho Okiti, economist and managing director of Business Day, for this very interesting conversation around the AFCFTA trade, development, and jobs opportunities for Nigeria. Indeed, it's very clear that we need an economic foundation, strong anchor for our infrastructure. We also need a broad and holistic trade policy. And also, like you already said, amongst the private sector and key players, there needs to be that engagement and interaction on the values and progress beyond the issues of mobilization, and definitely progress will be made. Thank you once again for the time, and look forward to having you in subsequent editions to discuss round economy and trade.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And that will be all for this edition of the Economy and Politics show. If you have any question, you have a view or a comment to make around this conversation on the AFCFTA, trade development and job opportunities in Nigeria, you can send your views, comments, and questions to otuabasi.abasekong@proshenji.com. That's already been displayed on the screen. Also, if you want to get further developments and news stories on what's happening in trade, particularly the AFCFTA, log on to our website, www.proshenji.com, and go on to the right hand of the bar, check on investments, activities in investments. You would get all those stories and analysis. Also, follow our social media platforms displayed on the screen to get further updates on the markets, the economy, and of course, the business space. Don't forget at this period to stay safe. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.